But when you look back, how wild was the Wild West when you first got to ESPN? Because I got there a few years after you guys launched because I was at CNN at the time. But the guys who were there talked about that was it the Wild West when you guys were doing Sports Center?
Well, it was the Wild West in which we, at the very, very beginning, there were what, 70 or 80 of us in the whole that did everything from president of the company to someone that kept track of the tapes. We were all, just about all of us, really young, 20s and 30s. We were rebels without a clue. we, but we got to do sports all the time, and it's hard for a lot of your, this, but it's hard for a lot of your under 40, especially listeners, viewers, Dan, to understand that cable, forget ESPN 24-hour sports. What are you guys nuts? Walter Cronkite gets 30 minutes for the news of the entire world. And you're going to talk about tennis in Budapest, huh? For 5 minutes, are you? So, I mean, I'm kidding a little, but it was more, would cable even make it? But I don't want to say we didn't care. I mean, my dad would say, you think it's going to make it, Chris? I went, if it makes it 2 years personally, I'll know if I'm any good at that or not. And in the meantime, I'm doing the show at 2:30 in the morning, Eastern. Nice drive home at 4A during a snowstorm. The plows didn't come till 5. But it was just sports. So there was a camaraderie that's like startups that make it. But it was more this, and I'll end this answer with, in retrospect, we rode cable's coattails, as did CNN, which started in 1980. We were 79. And MTV, when it was MTV, was what, 82? Something like that, I think. So those three, just to pick out a few, rode cable's coattails, but then cable rode ours, and CNN included, So it's kind of an interesting progression and a straight up progression, which now, of course, cable is not, what were we at, over 100 million homes. But back then, I wouldn't trade it for anything. We were just, we were just, like I said, we were Lewis and Clark without a compass, but we loved every minute of it.
And I don't know if there was a moment that all of a sudden it changed at ESPN. Was there acquisition, or college basketball felt like Big Monday was a big deal? But do you remember if there was like that, oh my gosh, if not for that, then maybe we don't have ESPN?
Okay, so the answer I was going to go with, but it wouldn't apply here. 8 years in, when we got the Sunday night football, 8 games, and Primetime went in, not that I was doing the show, had nothing to do with it. But that was we were really going to be a major, maybe not at the time networks, but a major player. So that's not the answer. I don't know. College basketball was the good idea, along with Sports Center, Dan, that you and Keith progressed from where Tommy and Bob and George, and I mean, I could go on and on and on, and so many others contributed to it. We had college hoops on, in the middle of the week, right out of the gates. And that was, let alone the tournament. And so that was and then I don't want to say the NFL draft, because we'd have it on Tuesday morning at 8 a.m. But again, it was a thing that you had to kind of find us if you really cared about it. But was there a one aha moment? I'll give you it's not the answer, but you'll find this interesting because you probably don't. So the year sailboat racing, not normally something that I would go to you and I talking about, okay? The year that the America's Cup fell to the Australians with the winged keel in Newport in 1983. Now, of course, this was like a Cuban election, the America's Cup up to that point. Like, we would win, okay? Like, they'd have to sail across from Europe. They couldn't build the boat over here. I mean, that's one of the many rules that you don't think they were starting as a 15-point underdog. Of course they were. But it was the 7th and deciding race, and a Providence station had a helicopter, or two. And we picked up the feed on a Tuesday, I want to say a Tuesday afternoon at 3 o'clock Eastern. And the ratings, which whatever they were at the time, were through the roof. I mean, it's not the Super Bowl, but you mean people are finding ESPN? They heard and somebody called someone in their office, hey, watch the seventh and deciding race of the America's Cup, and the Aussies beat the Americans. And that was a moment to myself that I went, maybe we're actually on to something. So that's not the defining moment, but there's a moment that you and I didn't think we would be talking about 10 minutes ago.